This is one of the truly iconic drum machines that ever came out of the 80s, the Roland TR-808, fully analog under computer control. It was considered a flop when it first came out, but as you know, it has risen through the ranks in the years to come, and it's hailed now as one of the really iconic drum machines. One of the things I really wanted to use the TR-808 for was those low and mid congas. Phil Collins used a lot of low congas in his music, and they often struck on the second beat of the bar. So I'm going to use that same little thing here. I'm going to add some low congas, some mid congas, claps, and the rim shot sound. And to get the sense of the rhythm, I'm enabling the kick drum as well, but that's not going to be part of the pattern when I record it into the DAW later. I'll show you that as well. So I'm just programming in some small variations between the A and B variation of the TR-808. If you watched my 808 video from some while back, you know that the 808 has a A variation and a B variation that I can alter between by setting this lever in the A-B position. I really like this feature, makes it very fast and easy to set up two different patterns and alternate between them in real time. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up the low conga on the second beat to the bar here. And I'm changing out the way the rim shot, the mid congas, and the clap are playing between the A and B variation. It gives us a little bit of dynamics. You hear that low conga there? That's very essential to me for this. I had this idea from the get-go that I wanted this low conga playing the way it does. If I take it away, you can hear the difference. So this is the two patterns I want to have going with the other drums in the arrangement. So let's record these patterns, and I'm only using the mixed output here. I could have used the individual outputs and have total control over each sound, but since we are in 2022 and I'm using a DAW, I will just record the mixed output and chop up the individual parts in the DAW. So I'm recording this mono channel into one of the inputs of the Audient ID22. I could have used the ASP880 and recorded all the 4 different sounds individually, but I'm not going to be bothered by that now. So let's just record one track and chop it up. And because of that, I don't have to sync this up, but it's a fun exercise. So I'm syncing it up nevertheless to record the patterns in tempo with the DAW from the get-go. And out of my MIDI interface, I go into a Dofer MSY2 MIDI to sync converter. So the MIDI clock comes in on the in port, it converts it to a clock output or a DIN sync signal, which the 808 depends on. So this is perfect for converting MIDI signal to all-time DIN sync signals. At the back of the MSY2, you have dip switches that will help you to set clock dividers, etc., so that the 808 won't speed up, go too fast, double the clock pulse, etc., so I can tailor it to the sync signal coming out of my DAW. And in the DAW, I've enabled the MIDI clock going out on MIDI port A in this case, since I have 4 different ones. It's important to turn off send MIDI clock in stop mode. The 808 doesn't like that. So all I have to do now is record enable a track, a mono track in the DAW to record this pattern. So when I now press record and play in the DAW, this pattern will be recorded in sync. Now, to you, this will appear to be not in sync. It's lagging behind. And that's because of my screen capturing device at the moment is messing up a little bit of the latency in my DAW here. But rest assured, when I'm finished with this will all be in sync. So here we are in the DAW. You can see in red there the 808 track. I've just recorded this pattern with its individual drums in that same timeline on the same track. And it recorded clean and nice. That's also why I use the Audient preamps on this, because it lets the transients through and it sounds clean and nice. It doesn't add its own color to the recordings. Sometimes I want that. Today, in this case, I didn't want any coloration from the preamp, so I just used the Audients on that. Perfect. So now I'm just chopping up the individual drums so I can move them around and put them where I want them throughout the arrangement. We had 4 different ones. We had the low congas, the mid congas, we had the rim shot, and we had the claps. And these will require different types of reverbs, etc., processing, compression, etc. We'll get back to that later. For now, let's just chop this up and copy this around a little bit. And particularly in the verse where I first, in my mind, heard that this would be a nice fit. You can still hear the sync isn't 100%. The claps especially seems to be coming a little bit late. So I'll have to nudge these samples back and forth as I work on this arrangement now and put them where I think they should be. First, I'll isolate the different drum sounds from that recorded pattern and put them into separate tracks in the DAW here. So that's what I'm doing right now, just isolating those different hits and doing that. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you guys watching right now thinking, why in the world is this guy doing this cumbersome way? Why go to the length of recording a real 808, etc., when you're just going to chop it up afterwards anyway? Why don't you use samples from the get-go? Well, this is my preferred workflow. This makes me happy. I enjoy the process. It gives me great satisfaction and inspiration knowing these drums came from a real 808, programmed by me, recorded by me. This is what I live for. In 20 years, I can look back at this thinking, I did it my way. I definitely have to do something about that clap, so I'll nudge that forward a little bit later. Only thing now is to put on a little bit of reverb on some of the sounds. I think the rim shot especially and the claps deserves a little bit of reverb. Like I've told you before, and I'll say it again, at this point, all the reverbs, all the effects I'm using are just scratch effects, scratch processing, to get a vibe going as we layer more and more sounds. When I mix this later, all these sounds will be dry and processed again to find the right and final reverbs, etc. So there we have it, a couple of 808 drum sounds, programmed, recorded from scratch, into this arrangement and put into the verse. I'm gonna play around with this a little bit more and scatter these sounds around in the arrangement, and let's see where they end up finally. So let's move on. So after a little bit of messing around, I found a nice suitable place for the samples of the TR8 track we just recorded. And you saw me chopping them up, and here they are.
Can I go back? Can I go back in time? I wanted more. I wanted to say so much. I wonder why we didn't make it through.
So I think this will work nice for the verse. I have some effects on some of them. I even made a separate track for the rim shot with no delays on it. I had some delays on the track above it, but I'll mute this for now since I didn't find any room for a rim shot without no delays at this point. So we have that synth bass, and I've laid down some already, the intro part and the first verse, first chorus. So now we're going to record something for the second verse. So I'll just have to find a little bit of variation for that second verse so it doesn't play exactly the same. So let's put it in record mode and see what we get. I might have to do this a couple of times to get the feel right.
When you hear my calls, feeling lost in time, pick up the phone with a smile. I wonder.
Okay, messed it up a little there. Let's go one more and build upon that.
When you hear my calls, feeling lost in time, pick up the phone with a smile. I wonder if we're gonna make it back to 85. Will our worlds collide? Tell me, will they? One call, the sound of lying, signs of life. Tell me now.
Okay, I think I have it now. Let's do it a third time, and I think I'll know exactly what to do now.
When you hear my calls, feeling lost in time, pick up the phone with a smile. I wonder if we're gonna make it back to 85. Will our worlds collide? Tell me, will they? One call, the sound of lying, signs of life.
Okay, messed it up a little bit again, but this time I'll just rewind it slightly and erase that part that didn't work. I was quite happy up until this point, so I'll keep all of that and I'll just punch in at this point and re-record the chorus.
One call, the sound of lying, signs of life. Tell me now. Will this continue forever?
Okay, so let's listen to that back.
One call, the sound of lying, signs of life. Tell me now. Will this continue forever?
Now, since this is done in MIDI, I can go in and edit a couple of things, and I'll do that now. I'll quantize this bass track quite hard to 16ths. I want the bass to be quite firm in this track along with the drums, and I'll play more loose with other separate tracks I'll lay down by hand later. So let's go into this and delete all controllers. I don't need any controllers on this track. I don't use the sustain pedal. I don't use the aftertouch, which are generated by the KX88 master keyboard. So I'll just get rid of that. Let's glue the MIDI track together and erase all controller data. This was very important, of course, back in the day with hardware sequencers, because their memories would be filled up quite easily if you used a lot of continuous controllers. I think I had a rogue note at the start of this bass recording. Let's find that. Maybe it was earlier in the track. Very happy with that part, by the way. This is a walking bass up there. But where's that rogue note? Pretty sure I heard it. There it is. Let's get rid of that. And this should do it.
Pick up the phone.
And there we have the bass track now. All that's missing is the last pre-chorus.
I wonder why we did.
And as you remember, this is a little bit different because I have a couple of new chords and it goes down one key at the end.
I wonder why we didn't make it back in '84. I wondered why. Now I wonder. Let's have a score.
Those bass hits together with the drums at the end there can be a little bit tricky, but let's hear it and we can always go in and edit that.
Why we didn't make it back in '84. I wondered why. Now I wonder. Let's have a score.
Yeah, that last bass hit is way too early. So I'll just go in and erase that controller data again, and let's find those last couple of bass notes and move them slightly. Sometimes the cursor don't follow what's been playing, so I'll just fix that. And let's find those last bass notes. Yes, so it's those last two bass notes, and all the bass notes at the end should be more legato in style. So let's just move them around a little bit and make them a little bit longer as well.
Let's have a score. Let's have a score. Let's have a score.
Perfect.
One call, sound of lying, signs of life. One sound, a siren calling. I'll be there.
So that's the bass track for now. We have a nice dynamic bass track going throughout. And I've done this in MIDI since this bass track will definitely be edited a little bit later, and maybe I'll layer down a whole new bass, who knows? But for now, this will work nicely throughout the arrangement. Let's move on to the DX piano I had planned in the verses. So I'm using a Yamaha TX802 here with a full tine piano sound. The 802 is wired to this patch bay, so I can take the output of the TX802 and pipe it into the Yamaha DMP7 digital mixer, which I'm going to use for this particular sound. There's something magical happening when I wire my Yamaha synths into this mixer. And I'm gonna use it for a classic Yamaha chorus effect called symphonic. So let's listen to the sound first dry. I will also record the sound dry just in case. So this is the classic full tines preset patch. Very 80s, of course. But sounding like this is not what I had in mind. I want chorus, and I want a lot of chorus, and I want the symphonic chorus from the DMP7. The same symphonic chorus as you find in a lot of other 80s Yamaha effect boxes, like the SPX 90s, for instance. So let's enable that chorus. And I also want some hall reverb from the Yamaha. So this basically means I'll commit to this sound from the get-go. I'll record this as audio, although I'll play it over MIDI, and I will record the MIDI data as well for this tutorial. But I do this a lot. I play things by hand with effects on it, so I commit to that sound early on. A lot less options later for me to choose from. It will be a much more clean mix later. That's too much chorus. Let's find a middle road here. Lots of chorus, but not too much. And here comes the dilemmas. What chord voicing works best for this song in the verse? It's very easy to play chord inversions that have the top note of the chord doing the same notes as the melody top line, the same notes as I'm singing, but that's rarely the best choice actually when it comes to chord inversions and what chord voicings you should use. So I try to find chords here that don't go in the way of the melody top line, and it's a bit of a trial and error really what sounds good. And of course the piano sound now will be much higher in volume than it will be in the final mix, but I need to hear what I'm playing, so this is no way a representation of how it's gonna sound in the mix at the end. So let's record something and see how it goes. Okay, so I have some ideas now and just trying out different stuff to get a feel for it. Sometimes doing the chords where the top note of the chord is exactly the same as the melody line, sometimes that is the right decision, sometimes that is what sounds the best. So there's no rights or wrongs here, you just have to try out stuff and get a sense of what you think sounds the best. I think I'm a little bit hard on the hall reverb here. Let's pull that back a little bit so it doesn't wash out. So let's do one more take here and see how it goes. So that was pretty good, happy with that. There's a couple of things I'll have to change out, I think. And again, I'm using MIDI here for this tutorial, so I can go in and edit a little bit. And I'm not going to quantize this track at all. I want those slight imperfections in time, but I can't have too much imperfections. Okay, so that last chord there was a bit late. So I'll just move that a little bit. not quantizing it as such, just moving it a little bit ahead. Bit more perhaps. Let's change the quantized resolution of the notes and just nudge it forward. So this is the MIDI info playing the Yamaha TX802, and as such I can play a little bit with the MIDI velocity and MIDI velocity, the velocity compression of the track. So let's do that. I don't want to go in and edit all of the separate notes velocity, so I'll just use a MIDI plugin here, which will help me change the scale of the velocity of each note slightly. Those last chords are coming a little bit late still. But this is also due to latency in my system while I record this. I told you earlier that my screen capturing software is kind of messing up my latency a little bit, so it makes it a little bit harder to play in time actually. So the MIDI info will also be a little bit late. To check this out, I'll record the audio track of that TX802 full-tones piano. And when I listen to this back, the latency will not be a problem because I'm listening to the pure audio track. So if these last chords are late now as well, when I listen to the audio track here, I'll have to go back to the MIDI track and edit it further. So it's only now when I listen to this back I will hear if the timing is okay. Great, that works fine. Some slight imperfections in the timing of those chords, exactly how I want it to be. Not too quantized, not too robotic, not too much synth-pop. This is supposed to be pop, so we'll play some of it by hand, like in this case. But I'll go in and edit some here and there, since I do some of these parts in MIDI. So now I have recorded a audio track with that full chorused piano sound. I'll also record a dry version of that same full-tones piano, just in case I need it later for another effect, if I find out that this is really not something I should go for at all. So just in case, as a backup, I'll record it again with a dry sound where I take off the symphonic chorus and that whole reverb from the DMP7 mixer. And of course it helps to enable the MIDI track when I'm recording the audio. So while this is playing and recording, let me add that I will probably record a lot more separate tracks for this arrangement that will end up in the final mix. It's very common, it was common to record more tracks than you probably needed. And you'll strip away things, you'll chop up things, re-edit things, re-record things, move things around. as the arrangement progresses. So maybe these DX tines will end up being scrapped all along, who knows? For now, I'm happy with how the arrangement is going. So I'll mess around with this electric piano and record something for the second verse and the third pre-chorus as well. And this can usually take an hour or two. And here I've done it. So let's listen to what I've done with the rest of the song. So you can hear the chord inversions are a little bit different here and there in the second verse, again to add tension, dynamics, texture. So that was that second verse, second pre-chorus in the can. And I'll have to re-record one more time for that third pre-chorus where I changed the chord slightly as well. So I'll get back to that later. Now I want to focus a little bit on the chorus bits. And I'm using a pad/organ sound here from the Roland Alpha Juno 2. And again, trying to find some nice chord voicings that don't mess up too much with the top line of the melody I'm singing. And I just wanted a clean, simple, nice pad sound that will respond well to a reverb later. Something that will just sound smooth and slick below everything else, which I'm going to layer on top. Something to hold it all, glue it all together. Again, some of this might not be used at the end, who knows? But I've always been very fond of pad sounds laying underneath everything and with sugarcoating on top in terms of other sounds. So I often start this way by layering down some pad sounds at the bottom of the arrangement. And since I want this to sound kind of thick in its texture, I've recorded this in a slightly different way. The outputs of the Alpha Juno 2 is going into this radial DI box, which converts the signal to microphone signals, which are then fed into these 1073 clone preamps from Golden Age Premiere. And this way I can crank up, drive the saturation of the transformers inside the preamps to thicken up the sound going in. And this is a perfect way of adding a little bit of beef to synth sounds exactly like these. So let's just enable a track and record this in real time by hand. No MIDI this time. So I better do it right. Since this preset is a patch I've made from scratch, I've made it so that the LFO makes the sound come back again if you just hold the chord long enough. And that will work perfect for this little drum break I had going at this part at the end of that first chorus. So let's check that back. Sounds perfect, so let's just keep the momentum and record some more.
Will they? One call the sound of lying, signs of life.
Okay, so going into that bridge part with the D minor 9th, F major 9th, and C major 9th.
Will this continue forever?
Kind of cool, but not exactly how I think it should be done. So I'll just cut out that second part I recorded there. I'll keep it but mute it for now, and I'll duplicate the whole track, get rid of everything on that track, and record another pass going into that bridge.
Tell me now. Will this continue forever? Forever.
Yes, so that will work much better for what I had in mind for that bridge. So I've been messing around a little bit, recorded the last choruses as well, and that third pre-chorus with the full times piano too. So let's hear everything in order.
Back in '84, I wondered why. Now I wonder. Let's go. One call, the sound of lying, signs of life. One sound, the siren calling. I'll be there. One call, the sound of violence. I'll be there.
So everything is bone dry here in terms of these pad sounds, so we'll have to mix this up later. So we have bass, we have some tines, we have some pads going. Let's move on with the arrangement. And here I have the Prophet 2000 sampler, and I have some very cool sounds for this sampler. Sounds I think will suit parts of this track we're working on. And this is a very nice PPG sample. I will not use the lower octaves, I just wanted to show you that. The sound is somewhat distorted, but I'm only going to tap the keys very lightly, so I'm just using the attack of the sound. And the way the Prophet 2000 distributes its sound through the stereo output, bouncing between left and right, is very interesting and very cool in this case. So let's try it.
Can I go back?
I'll just play along with the intro to show you the motif I had in mind.
Can I go back? Can I?
So I'm going to record two passes of this, one in the octave I just played, like this, and I'm going to play and record one part later with an octave higher. Or I might just transpose the MIDI track here and do it that way. Let's go. So let's play that back and see what we've got. I'm going to put the quantize to 16ths just in case. I think I have to edit a little bit of those first few notes at least. They come in a little bit too early, all of them actually. So I'll just edit the start points of each of these. And then I'll do the rest as well, but in this case I can just quantize everything to 16ths as they really should be in time, being sort of bell-type sounds. They don't respond too well to being scattered all over the place, so let's just quantize these and be done with them. And I'm gonna record the audio now. And you can see the stereo spread here. I will double these up with some other type of bell sounds I have later. So these sounds will not be at the forefront of the audio. So the distortion you hear in the sounds, in the sample itself, will probably not be very recognizable in the final mix. So let's do the octaves as well. And I could have duplicated the MIDI track and just transposed it up 12 semitones, but I usually like to play the parts myself, even if they're going to be quantized later. Different types of ranges will often require different types of playing as well. So let's do it the hard way, the old way, the right way, and play them by hand. I think I struck a couple of these a little bit too hard. So let's check out So if we check out the MIDI velocity here, you can see that the first one was struck pretty hard. So I'm just going to average out some of the MIDI velocities here. I could have done that MIDI plugin from before where I averaged everything within the plugin itself. But sometimes I like to go in and macro edit certain points of notes I've recorded. That sounds fine, and all that's left now is to record the audio track with this sound as well, and I can layer these later. So that worked well. I have another sound in the Prophet 2000 that I also want to use, a very, very beautiful string sound. This is actually from the Emulator 2, sampled into the Prophet 2000. And I'm running this now through that Yamaha DMP7 mixer from before with that same symphonic chorus, a lot of it. And I'm going into the key groups now with the different samples. These are multi-samples. and I'm adjusting the filter cutoff for each of the key groups in the key span I've laid out. That way I can make the filter open up a little bit more in the higher strings than in the lower, so I can tailor this manually like I'm doing now. So I'm going to use these strings now in the pre-choruses, the second pre-chorus and the third pre-chorus. And I will use a little bit of it in the bridge as well, but first things first, let's record that second pre-chorus with some nice strings.
With a smile, I wonder if we're gonna make it back to 85. Will our worlds collide? Tell me, will they? One call, the sound of lying.
So let's hear that back. I didn't just invent that right now, I had planned this a little bit beforehand. So this was played by hand, straight in as audio, no MIDI here. It did take me a good half an hour to come up with a good string part that didn't conflict with the melody top line. But I want to use this in the bridge as well, so let's record it straight away. I think the chords, the sound needs to have its filter cutoff shut down a little bit. I want it more mellow. And the chord voicings, well, I want this to have a sort of Ennio Morricone feel to the chords. That's why I used all those ninth chords, the major ninth chords. I showed you that earlier when we recorded that pad sound, and in the composition video as well. So let me just adjust the filter cutoff here and maybe layer those chords a little bit different than I just recorded. Just trying out some stuff here. This was not planned beforehand. So let's record a little bit and see how it goes. That was okay, so I'm going to keep that track, but let's turn off that pad sound from before so I can hear the strings a little bit better. So let me just mute that and let's listen. Again, it's okay, so I'm just gonna put that aside for the time being and mute it, and let's record another part. I'm gonna voice my chords a little bit different this time. Whoops, a little mistake there. I have it now. Okay, let's check that back. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And let's move on to the third and final pre-chorus and do a little bit there.
Why we didn't make it back in '84. I wondered why. Now I wonder. Let's end the score.
To make a cluster of chords at the end there is a nice thing to build up towards the climax of the last choruses. Yeah, that builds it up very nice towards the final choruses. So some Prophet 2000 strings here did wonders. And I think this wraps it up for this episode number 3, where we arranged the song. I think there will be at least 2 more episodes of arranging. There's a lot of sounds going into this. And next time we'll pull out the guitars and I'll have a special guest brought in to play that guitar. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.